Welcome back, my fellow Soul Nirvanians, and welcome now to Astro 101. We are at episode 10. My goodness, it's been that long so far, and they just whip right out of me. I love doing this astrology stuff. Well, we've been talking about the planets. And by the way, if you're just joining us, if you just joined Soul Nirvana, welcome. I suggest you start at the bottom of this list here and work your way up, literally. This is an incremental development. Today we're going to talk about two more planets, and I know I'm keeping them at two, but as you well know, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to a planet. We've so far gotten up through Jupiter, and today we're going to start with Saturn. Okay, Saturn. Now remember the outer planets. Let me get my nice little high-content visual aid here. We talked about Jupiter so far. Remember, up through Chiron is pretty much the human condition, the human experience. Then once we get to Jupiter, we're expanding on that experience. In fact, Jupiter is the collective consciousness. So you can look at this as one human being, and then Jupiter is, well, how do all those human beings all fit together? What's the collective consciousness of all those human beings? That's what Jupiter does. Keeps track of everyone. Jupiter is the ruling planet of Sagittarius, don't forget. So Sagittarius is our forever students, right? They are teachers, they're wanderers, they're travelers, they're constantly tasting other cultures, tasting other kind of people. They just love it all, right? Sagittarius people tend to marry actually outside their race or culture a lot of times. Saturn is the next planet. Saturn gets a lot of press. Saturn, to me, is a big saw blade up in space. These rings are sharp, okay? What Saturn is about is decisiveness, okay? Decisiveness. Saturn cuts through the crap. That's what Capricorns do. They cut through the crap. I call Capricorns the captains of the zodiac because they have the ability to be decisive. Once they make a decision, forget it. You're not changing their mind. You may think Tauruses are stubborn, but Capricorns just simply cut it to the quick, all right? What Saturn rules really is control. Saturn is the timekeeper of the zodiac, okay? And Saturn basically is the controller of the zodiac. The symbol for Saturn in a chart is this guy, this weird kind of H with a cross on the top. This is the glyph for Saturn. I like this glyph. I think it's really cool, actually. Too bad I don't like Saturn very much. Wherever Saturn is in your chart talks about where we have responsibility. Okay, that's really what Saturn talks about. We have to be responsible. Well, what does responsibility come down to? It comes down to making smart decisions, right? I'm going to decide to quit smoking. I'm going to decide to be on time. Another thing, timeliness, Saturn as well. Saturn comes down to where we must be responsible, and to be responsible, we must make decisions, and to make decisions, we must process our reality, all right? So wherever Saturn is in your chart, it tells us astrologers that this is a weak spot in the soul. The soul is irresponsible in this area by nature, or at least upon entry of this lifetime. You're irresponsible in this area, all right? So for instance, my Saturn is in the 11th house. I'm irresponsible with society. Now you may say, Chris, you created Soul Garden. That's not very irresponsible. Well, I got responsible, okay? That's what Saturn says. You got to take care. As soon as I learned what Saturn was, I was like, crap. I guess I can't be just a movie director. I've got to change society. Now, it's usually an area where you know you should do it. That's the responsible part. So you know you should. It shouldn't just be just about me and my stardom. I should probably do something to help out the world too. Because I can, that's why. So Saturn shows us where we need to take responsibility and where our soul tends to lack at taking responsibility, okay? As a result, when you take responsibility, you end up carving out a place for yourself in society, okay? Now, mine is in society, but no matter where you take responsibility, you carve out a place for yourself. Saturn is the ruler of the 10th house, which is Capricorn. The 10th house is our career and our legacy. So when we are decisive about who we are, we end up distinguishing ourselves with our legacy. This is what Henry Ford was known for. He made decisions to do an assembly line. He made decisions to do this, and he became the inventor of this. That was his career and legacy. So by following Saturn in your chart, you end up by default attributing to your career and legacy, no matter where Saturn happens to be. So for instance, if Saturn is in the second house, the house of soul capital and self-esteem, well then you have the responsibility of taking of your own soul capital. In other words, you can't rely on your mother to tell you how valuable you are or someone else to tell you how valuable you are. You must take the responsibility of deciding how valuable you are on your own. That's the core spiritual issue. And then as a result of taking that responsibility, oh my gosh, your career takes off. You make money, right? Saturn in the third would be the responsibility of a message, being the messenger. So to me, that tells me that's a soul who's reluctant to speak up, to tell things what they feel, tell how they feel, etc. What's interesting about Saturn is, wherever Saturn begins as a need for responsibility turns into authority. Because if you follow it and you do what you're supposed to do according to Saturn, you become an expert at it. You become an authority. And that's how you stand out and, again, create that legacy. So I'm beginning to become an authority in astrology, whereas I was reluctant to take my responsibility in society. The next planet I want to talk about, I know I don't have enough time for all these planets, because I can talk forever, is Uranus. You say Uranus, I say Uranus. I say Uranus because I don't want any Uranus jokes, or you know what I'm saying. Look at Uranus. You know, people don't know this, but Uranus has rings, okay? And Uranus is the ruling planet of Aquarius, okay, of the Aquarian state of consciousness. Did you know that Uranus actually tilts this way and rotates this way? How crazy Aquarian, right? Those kooky Aquarians, they're so different. And Uranus is the same way. The other thing interesting about Uranus is that it's an aqua color. It's an aqua color. And we've been calling it Aquarius for a long time. Actually, Aquarius and Uranus go hand in hand. Uranus is the innovation vibration. So here we are, we're alive, then we think about it, then we create with it, then, oh gosh, I'm alive. Then we use the moon to reflect ourselves, then we go do something with that, then we find out our matrix, then we expand an idea. Now they're so expanded, then we carve it down to something manageable, and then after it's manageable, we innovate it. We take it to the next level. That's Uranus. Uranus is taking it to the next level. Now I always say Uranus is breakdown, breakthrough energy in the horoscopes, and that is true. Uranus has its own saw blades, and it will cut you to the quick, cut you to the knees. That vibration will show you that you're in denial. Did you know you're an alcoholic, says Uranus. Did you know you're a codependent, says Uranus. Uranus will cut you to the knees. But Uranus also has this duality nature too. Remember, the Aquarius symbol is duality. It's the two wavy lines. It is the I and the we simultaneously. Aquarius Uranus is responsible for society. And the reason why it innovates is because it's constantly seeing if a certain individual can fit within the context of society. So after you've carved yourself down here with Saturn, Uranus goes, okay, you're pretty good, but you know what? You're not that good. You need to learn how to run faster. And once you learn how to run faster, oh, you're in the Olympics. So it's always reorganizing society by innovating breakdown, breakthrough vibration in a person's life. Now, wherever Uranus happens to be in your chart, it tells me it's an area of your soul that is lazy. It's the part of you that's lazy. That's the part of you that is not willing to move on. You've constantly got to have Uranus in the background, whipping you in the butt, kicking you in the ass, telling you, keep it moving, keep it moving, keep it moving. That's a part of your chart there. You don't want to move. So if Uranus is in the 8th house, you don't want to be intimate with other people. If Uranus is in the 1st house, you don't want to develop your ego. You don't want to speak up for yourself. If Uranus is in the 3rd house, you don't want to talk. You don't want to communicate. And you know what happens? Oh, you get a throat issue. Oh, now you have to really focus on your throat. Or, oh, you get called on in class all the time. Why do I get called on in class all the time? You got Uranus in the 3rd house. The universe is not going to let you slow down and not keep innovating the way you communicate, because you as a soul tends to not get it done. Okay? So Uranus is breakdown, breakthrough energy. We're going to get deeper on all these planets, but I just want to do a nice introductory to all of them. Saturn was very important. Uranus is pretty important. And we come back next week, the last 2 planets, Neptune and Pluto. All right, my Solar audience, that's all I have for this episode number 10. Be sure to ask your questions, even if it's about your chart. Don't ask ahead of where we are so far. And I'll see you in 1 week with more Astro 1 101. Live, love, be. So